Hello everyone, welcome to session 3 of IS Baba's Rapid Revision series or RARE series for UPSC Prelims 2021. I am Preetham Reddy and in this third session I will be dealing with 10 important topics from geography, especially geomorphology. So here topics are both from static as well as current affairs. So we will be dealing with some important topics like basics of earthquake, National Center for Seismology, why Himalayas they are vulnerable to seismic activity or earthquakes. So recently there were earthquake in Assam, right? And we will be dealing with some important concepts like current affair concepts, claims and co-seismic ionospheric perturbations. Then we will try to understand what is seismic base isolation and earthquake disaster risk index. And we will know functioning of NDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, and then interior of the earth and classification based on physical state, difference between acidic rocks and basic rocks, igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks and metamorphic rocks. So these are some statics. Simple questions can come from statics. And finally we will try to understand National Geo Portal Bhuvan and recently launched Bhuvan Panchayat 3.0 web portal by ISRO. So today's first topic, let's understand some basics of earthquakes. So there are three important areas when you are revising earthquake. One, you should know what is the difference between focus and epicenter. So as you see in the figure, the point where the energy is released, right? So the point where the energy is released, so it is called as focus or we call it hypocenter. So many people don't know what is hypocenter. So focus or hypocenter. So usually earthquake waves or seismic waves, they originate, so from where they originate, so that point that is within the body of the earth, it is called focus or hypocenter, whereas epicenter, so epicenter is nothing but the point which is on the surface of the earth, and this epicenter is that point which is nearest to the hypocenter or nearest to the focus. So this epicenter is the first one to experience the wave and it is a point directly above the focus, so you people have to remember that part. And usually the greatest damage is closest to the epicenter, and the strength of the earthquake, it usually decreases away from the center. And next important area where you have to focus is different types of earthquake waves and associated differences. So this is important. And third, difference between Richter scale and Mercalli scale. So out of these three, the second one is very important. So third one is pretty easy. Richter scale, it measures what? Magnitude or intensity. So it measures magnitude. So it is based on magnitude and usually it has base 10 logarithmic scale. So this is based on magnitude and Mercalli scale is based on intensity. Right? So it measures intensity. So we will try to understand different earthquake waves and the differences. So we can classify the type of earthquake waves depending on their propagation velocity and path of travel. So first we have three types of wave. One is primary wave, second is secondary wave, third one is surface wave. And we can club this primary wave and secondary wave as body waves. So we have two types of waves, one is body waves and surface waves. Under body waves, we have primary wave and secondary wave. So first you have to know primary wave is also called as longitudinal wave or compressional wave. Okay, so it is called longitudinal wave or compressional waves. Whereas secondary waves, it is also called as transfer waves or shear waves. So you have to know these different names. So surface waves are also called R waves or Rayleigh waves. So primary waves we call it as P waves, secondary wave as S wave, surface wave as R waves. Okay. So first type of difference you should know which one is longitudinal wave or which one is transfer wave and which one is Rayleigh wave. Second, you have to know about propagation velocity. So here primary wave, it is similar to sound waves and it can travel in solid, liquid and gaseous media. So this is the major difference between primary and secondary wave. So primary wave can travel through all the media, whereas secondary wave will travel only in solid media. So it doesn't travel through liquid or gaseous medium. Okay. So next we have to know surface wave. So it moves along the boundaries between solid, liquid and gaseous media. Next we have to know the speed. So usually primary waves, they are twice the speed of secondary waves, whereas secondary waves, they are slow in motion and they are not so well developed. And you should know primary waves, they are of high frequency, and usually velocity of primary waves, it is greater in solids compared to liquids and gas. So this difference you have to know. And shadow zone of S wave is much larger than that of P waves. This is because S wave only travels in solid media. So finally we'll come to path of travel. So in primary wave, direction of movement and direction of oscillation of the particles are the same. So say for example, this is the direction of the movement of the wave. So even the particles, so they oscillate in the same direction. Okay. So majorly it is backward and forward movement. However, when it comes to secondary wave, so direction of travel is at right angles to the direction of oscillation. So here it is usually perpendicular. Say for example, this is the direction of movement. So this is the direction of movement. However, particles oscillate in a horizontal fashion or a perpendicular fashion. So here it is more of up and down movement. So under P wave, it is backward and forward movement. However, in secondary wave, it is up and down movement, that is perpendicular, or we call it as right angles. So this is the difference we have to know. And under surface wave, so they are generally set up in the earth's surface, and surface waves are the most destructive. So this point you have to remember. So while revising, you have to be careful, and these are some of the important points which one should revise and retain. So next important topic, National Center for Seismology. So we have to understand about this National Center for Seismology. So this comes under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. So this NCS, that is National Center for Seismology, it is the nodal agency for monitoring of what? Earthquake activity. And apart from monitoring earthquake swarm and aftershock, this NCS, it is also actively involved in the seismic hazard microzonation and also seismological research. So you have to know. And you should also know the history of instrumental earthquake monitoring in India. It dates back to 1898. So the first seismological observatory of the country, that is India, it was established in 1898 in Calcutta. So in Calcutta, Alipore. So it was called Alipore that time. In Alipore, during 1898, India had its first seismological observatory. So next topic, we have to know why the entire Himalayas are prone to high seismic activity or earthquakes. So we have to know why this entire Himalayan belt, as you can see in the figure, is extremely vulnerable to the earthquakes. So some of you might have read that India has been grouped into 4 seismic zones. So India is grouped into zone 2, 3, 4 and 5. And zone 5 is considered to be the most seismically active zone, while as zone 2 is the least. Okay. And you have to know, Indian subcontinent, it has suffered some of the deadliest earthquakes in its history. And you should know India's land area, more than around 60% of land area, it is prone to shaking of intensity 7 according to modified Mercalli intensity scale. So why India is vulnerable, or why Himalayan belt is extremely vulnerable to earthquakes? So we have to know. So the answer to this question lies in the processes which led to the formation of the mountain range. So we know that India was formed due to the collision of Indian plate and Eurasian tectonic plate. So the Indian plate has been sliding under the Eurasian plate ever since, right? And this process is not over. So the contact surface between the two plates is where pressure builds up, and this causes major earthquakes. So you have to know, this is the region where the pressure build up, or there is a lot of strain, and because of strain it causes major earthquakes. And third, you have to know sediments present in the mountains. So we know that there was Tethys Sea. So when this Indian plate and Eurasian plate collided, so what happened to the Tethys Sea, and what happened to those sediments, right? So we know about sedimentary rocks. They form when loose sediments on the Earth's surface become compressed and bonded together. So when this Indian plate and Eurasian tectonic plate, when it collided, so that time due to the compression, so there was this sediments from the Tethys Sea which bonded together. So many of these rocks are found in the Himalayas. So Himalayan rocks, there are sedimentary rocks also. So what happens if sediments are present in the Himalayan mountain rocks? So whenever a seismic wave passes through a layer of sediment, it makes the sediment, behave like jelly. And you should know that earthquakes, they generally travel at a high velocity through the stiff crystalline rock. But earthquake waves, they slow down whenever they enter some sedimentary region or the basin. So this increases their amplitude and they cause stronger tremors. So these are the major reasons why even recently Assam earthquake, right? So we know that northeast region, it is also situated in the highest seismological zone. So there should be constant earthquake preparations. So tectonic stress, it keeps building up continuously, especially along the fault lines. So Assam earthquake was because of accumulated stress release, and maybe those stress release, they were accumulated for a long time and it has been released recently. So these are some concepts which one should understand. So let's move on to next topic, co-seismic ionospheric perturbations and coupled lithosphere, atmosphere, ionosphere, magnetosphere system. So there was this article in PIB which is discussing about claims and CIP, that is co-seismic ionospheric perturbations and coupled lithosphere, atmosphere, ionosphere, magnetosphere system. So one should have revised regarding these claims. So what we should know about claims. So what is this claims? It is nothing but a interdisciplinary program of Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, and it is funded by Department of Science and Technology. So you have to know this claims is a program of Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, and it is funded by DST, that is Department of Science and Technology. So what is the main objective or the main aim of this claims program? It is to research, or the research focuses on energy transfer to the atmosphere during some activities like earthquakes or tsunamis. So we know that earthquake happens. So whenever earthquake happens, what happens? Compressional waves are produced, right? So we know that whenever earthquake happens, they produce some compressional or pressure waves. Say for example, we'll observe in this figure. So whenever earthquake or tsunami, right, or some seismic focus or tsunami happens, what is happening? So some compressional or pressure waves is rising. Now these pressure waves, they produce some variations in the adjacent atmosphere. So you can see here in the atmosphere, some variations is happening. So some acoustic wave is propagated upwards, and once this variations or once this acoustic wave, they rise and they arrive at the ionospheric altitudes. So what happens when these acoustic waves or those variations, they arrive at the ionospheric altitudes? So they redistribute the plasma density. So they make changes in the ion neutral collisions and they generate ionospheric perturbations. So these differences which is happening in the ionosphere, so we call it as co-seismic ionospheric perturbations. So these are nothing but the variations which is happening in the ionosphere region because of the compressional forces which are produced from earthquake or tsunamis. So now what does this claims program do? It studies this process. It tries to understand the CIP characteristics in the ionosphere. So based on those CIP characteristics and the total electron content in the ionosphere, so scientists can understand about large earthquakes. So this whole system, that is claims project and trying to study this CIP and total electron content in the lithosphere. So what we are intending to do with this, we are trying to monitor large earthquakes. So it is different kind of monitoring of earthquakes. So we call it ionospheric based monitoring of large earthquakes. So if a question comes from the claims, so do remember that it is part of Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, which is funded by DST, and what we are doing is we are trying to monitor large earthquakes. And how does this happen? It is through the compressional forces which rise and which disturbs the adjacent atmosphere, and those acoustic wave when it rises and arrives the ionospheric layer, so it will bring some plasma density variation. So this study we do, and from that particular study, so whatever is derived from the CIP and TEC, we can monitor the earthquake. So we can monitor the large earthquakes which are taking place. So let's move to next topic. So earthquake disaster risk index and seismic base isolation. So there is this index which is often in news. So earthquake disaster risk index, it is prepared by National Disaster Management Authority. So you have to remember this fact. And you have to know about seismic base isolation or base isolation. So generally we want to prepare ourselves for seismic activities or earthquakes, right? So the seismic base isolation or simple, so these seismic base isolation or in simple base isolation, it is meant to protect a structure against earthquake forces. So we have to know how this seismic base isolation work. So as I said, this seismic base isolation or base isolation in buildings, so what it does, it tries to protect the structure against earthquake forces. So how does it do? So here in this technique it uses horizontal rubber. So you can see in this figure it uses rubbers and steel. So this base isolation technique, it comprises horizontal rubber bearings alternated by layers of steel. So this is what we can see here. So just know base isolation or seismic base isolation technique, it is based on rubber bearings and steel, and using this technique we can protect a structure against earthquake forces. And right now this technique is used all over the world including India. So next we have to know about NDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority. So NDMA is again quite often in news. So NDMA, you have to first remember it is headed by the Prime Minister. So this is one of the important points, and it is the apex body of disaster management in India. And this NDMA, it was created under Disaster Management Act. So Disaster Management Act 2005, it envisaged for the creation of both NDMA and SDMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by Prime Minister, and SDMA, that is State Disaster Management Authorities, which will be headed by respective CMs. So you have to remember that. And what is NDMA vision? It is to build safer and disaster resilient India. So the major vision is to build safer and disaster resilient India by using some proactive technology, sustainable development strategies, right? And also by fostering some culture of prevention, preparedness and mitigation. So this is what the NDMA vision is, and it does. So NDMA, it is mandated to lay down the policies, plans and guidelines for disaster management. Okay, and you should know about NEC and NDRF. NEC is nothing but National Executive Committee. Okay, National Executive Committee. So this committee is headed by Union Home Secretary, who will be assisting Prime Minister. And one more important point which you have to know is the primary responsibility of disaster management, it rests with the state. So primary responsibility is with the state. So the center or the central government, it will support the efforts of the state government by providing some logistics and financial support. So you have to remember this. And you should know the working of NDRF, that is National Disaster Response Force. So it is a specialized force for disaster response which works under the NDMA. So try to revise NDMA, NEC and NDRF. Okay. So next topic, it is interior of the earth. So this table has important content which one should revise and know. So first you should know crust. So crust is mainly composed of silica and aluminum. So usually a major portion of the crust or the surface of the earth, it is composed of silicates. And usually crust is made up of solid and the density of these rocks are light. So when it comes to mantle, we have lithosphere and asthenosphere. So lithosphere is nothing but the lower part of the crust and the upper part of the mantle. So that particular area is called as lithosphere, and this particular area will have moderately light density of rocks. And we have asthenosphere in the mantle. So this asthenosphere is below lithosphere, and usually it is also composed of some solid and plastic or semi-molten surface. And finally, mantle is made up of SiMa, that is silicon and magnesium. So it is made up of silicon and magnesium, whereas crust is made up of silicon and aluminum. And when it comes to core, it is made up of knife, that is nickel and ferrous. So these are the difference. So these are the difference one should know. And barysphere, it is associated with core, and core usually it has heavy density or very heavy density of rocks. And outer part of the core, you have to remember, it is in the liquid or plastic or semi-molten state, whereas inner core is solid. So these are some of the facts which you have to know. So next, maybe there might be a question on discontinuity as well. So you have to know different discontinuities there: Konrad, Mohorovic, Rapeti discontinuity, Gutenberg, and transition. So just whenever they are asking about discontinuity, just remember Mamta Didi. So you know, during Bengal elections, Mamta Didi, that is CM of Bengal, she had reported Gutne mein dard. So problem with her leg, right? So just remember this one. So CM had reported Gutne mein dard. So if you remember that small trick, so you can remember this thing easily. So CMR, that is Konrad discontinuity, Mohorovic discontinuity, Rapti discontinuity, and Gutenberg discontinuity, and transition discontinuity. So Konrad discontinuity is between outer and inner crust, whereas Mohorovic is between inner crust and outer mantle. So it distinguishes inner crust and outer mantle, whereas Rapti discontinuity, it distinguishes between inner mantle and outer mantle. And transition discontinuity, it differentiates between inner core and outer core. So you should know these things. So when you are revising, do revise whatever we have provided in the rare notes. So regarding lithosphere, asthenosphere, mesosphere, pyrosphere, and barysphere. So next important topic is acidic and basic rocks. So these are very simple. So acidic rocks, whenever it contains large proportion of silica, they are called acidic rocks. So whenever the rocks contain lesser proportion of silica, they are called as basic rocks. And you should remember some of the examples which is important, and you should know upper crust usually they consist mostly of silicates or acidic rocks. Okay, and the lower crust and the upper mantle, they consist of basic rocks. And usually all type of earthquake related activities or compressional forces or orogenic forces which will create mountains or tensional rifts, all these kind of activities, they originate in the lower crust and the upper mantle. Why lower crust and the upper mantle? Because of asthenosphere. Okay, so asthenosphere is semi liquid or semi molten. So that is the reason where this compressional forces or tensional forces or compressional orogenic forces which create mountains or tensional rifts which create rift valleys and fault forces, they are formed. So next topic, you have to know the difference between igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. Easy. I hope you people can revise this. Okay, just remember igneous rocks, they are formed by cooling and solidification of molten rocks, whereas sedimentary rocks, they are formed from sediment accumulated over long period, especially under water. Okay, and metamorphic rocks, it is usually because of great heat and pressure. And igneous rocks, it does not contain fossils and they are crystalline in nature, whereas sedimentary rocks, they are layered and they are stratified and they are coarse and fine grained and they often contain fossils. So revise about different igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks, and how different rocks transform into different. So how different types of rock they transform into sedimentary or metamorphic rocks. Okay, and finally today's last topic, that is National Geo Portal or Bhuvan, and Bhuvan Panchayat version 3.0 web portal. So this Bhuvan Panchayat web portal, it was launched recently. That's the reason you should know about National Geo Portal Bhuvan as well as this Bhuvan 3.0. So this Bhuvan, it is a national geo portal which is developed and hosted by ISRO. So you have to remember this particular fact. And this Bhuvan, it comprises of geospatial data services and tools analysis. So this software application, it allows the users to explore both 2D or 3D representation of the surfaces of the earth. So it acts like a GPS. So here simple questions can come. Usually they ask about significance or applications of some app or technology. Okay, so you have to know the significance of Bhuvan. So it can be connected to any GPS, and this Bhuvan will help one to download some data, some spatial geospatial data and services. And using this Bhuvan, users can chart routes, plot areas, they can view terrain profile, etc. And one can also study and understand regarding the topography and surrounding areas. So finally, we should know about Bhuvan Panchayat version 3.0 web portal. So this web portal, it was launched recently in 2020 and it was launched by ISRO. So you have to know. So ISRO had earlier launched space-based information support for decentralized planning update. So ISRO had launched this SISDP project in order to assist Gram Panchayats at grassroots level. So this Bhuvan Panchayat version 3.0, it is a web geo portal, and it is a easy to use geo portal, and it is developed for benefiting Gram Panchayat members and other stakeholders. So it will help to create database, to maintain database. It will help to analyze data, generation of some automatic reports. It will also help to monitor the terrain topography. So all these things are important. So just know this Bhuvan Panchayat version 3.0 web portal, it is part of ISRO's SISDP project, that is space-based information support for decentralized planning. Okay, it is part of this project. So these are today's topics. Do revise. We'll meet in next session. Thank you.